Okay, Marlon! I was just upstairs watching TV, and all I hear was a woman like screaming, saying, "Gary, give me my baby, Gary, give me my baby." And then, of course, I'm still hearing it, and that's when I heard like 2 gunshots.
There are marriages that survive infidelity. There are marriages that survive separation. There are even marriages that survive one partner having a baby with someone else. Marlon Sanders had survived all of it. He had chosen to stay. He had chosen to rebuild. The one thing his marriage could not survive was a pickup that should have taken 5 minutes. May 26, 2026, just past midnight, Marlon and his wife drive to a house on Blue Timbers Court in Harris County, Texas. They are there for one reason, to collect an infant and go home. That's it. No confrontation planned. No history they hadn't already made peace with. Just 2 people in a car, driving through the dark to pick up a baby. Marlon never makes it back to that car. He is 36 years old, a music teacher at Lucian Adams Elementary School, a football and basketball coach at Memorial High School, a singer, a DJ, a man who, by every account from everyone who knew him, showed up for people, fully, consistently, without half measures. And on the last night of his life, that is exactly what he was doing, showing up. So before we go any further, I need you to ask yourself something. What kind of love does it take to stay in a marriage after everything Marlon stayed through? And what kind of rage does it take to end a life over a baby pickup at midnight? Because both of those things happened, and neither one makes sense until you understand the full picture. If stories like Marlon's matter to you, if you believe real people deserve more than a 2-line news report, hit that like button right now. Subscribe to 3 AM Files and turn on your notifications. We don't let these stories disappear. Your support is the only reason we can keep telling them. Stay with me. Let's go back. Because to understand the night Marlon Sanders died, you have to understand the years that led him there. Marlon had been part of Port Arthur ISD for over 7 years. 7 years of showing up to that music room, picking up an instrument, and making children believe that what they felt inside could be turned into something beautiful. 7 years of standing on sidelines, coaching teenagers through losses and wins, being the adult in the room who made them feel like their effort actually meant something. Port Arthur called him beloved, not as a polite gesture in a press release. As a fact, that word came from teachers, from parents, from students, from coaches, from people who had known him for years and people who had only known him a season. Beloved was the only word that kept coming up because it was the only word that fit. Outside of school, he was a musician, a singer, and a DJ, the kind of person who brings energy into a room without demanding attention for it. The kind of person you remember not because they tried to stand out, but because they were genuinely, effortlessly present. And then, about 3 years before all of this, his marriage hit a wall. We don't know the details of what went wrong. We don't know who pulled away first or what the breaking point was. What we know is that Marlon and his wife separated. And during that separation, she met someone else, a man named Gary Davis. And sometime during that relationship, she became pregnant, a baby girl born roughly 9 months before that May night. Now here is the part one needs you to really sit with, because this is where Marlon's character becomes impossible to ignore. When his wife came back, he stayed. He didn't walk away from the marriage. He didn't let the distance become permanent. He chose her, knowing everything, knowing about Davis, knowing about the baby, knowing that co-parenting meant Gary Davis would never fully be out of the picture. Most people don't do that. Most people take the easier road. Marlon Sanders took the harder one, and he walked it with his eyes open. Now we need to talk about Gary Davis, Because this case doesn't make sense without understanding what was sitting inside that house on Blue Timbers Court when those headlights pulled up. Gary Davis is 38 years old. He is the biological father of a child with a woman who chose to go back to her husband. That is a very specific kind of wound, not the clean wound of a breakup, the complicated, slow-burning kind where the relationship ended but the connection didn't, where every visit, every handoff, every text about the baby is a reminder that she is living a life with someone else, a life Davis is not part of. Now, I want to be very clear. None of that justifies what happened. Nothing does. But if we are going to understand this case, truly understand it, we have to look at the psychology of what Davis was sitting with. Behavioral researchers who study intimate partner violence talk about something called repartnering aggression. The theory is that the most dangerous moment in a fractured relationship is not the breakup itself. It is the moment the former partner is confronted with visible, undeniable proof that life has moved on without them. Not hearing about it, not imagining it, seeing it, the new partner, present and real, standing right there in front of you. Davis had allowed the baby to stay with him for a couple of days. That was the arrangement, a normal co-parenting exchange. Then, late on the night of May 25th, Marlon and his wife drove to Blue Timbers Court to collect the infant. Think about what Davis saw from that window. The woman he had a child with, pulling up to his house with her husband. The man she went back to, the man who was now standing on the street outside his door. Next to the car, they came in together, waiting to take that baby back into a home Davis had no place in. We don't know exactly what was said. Neighbors described a chaotic confrontation in the moments before the shot. But what investigators confirmed is this: Davis didn't open the door and call out. He didn't stand on the porch. He rushed out, and he shot Marlon Sanders while Marlon was standing by his vehicle in the road, not inside the house, not blocking the door, at his car, possibly already turning to leave. Deputies arrived just after midnight. They found Marlon on the roadway with a gunshot wound. They worked on him right there in the street. He was transported to a hospital. He did not survive. A man who spent his days teaching children to hear the music in the world around them was pronounced dead before the sun came up on Blue Timbers Court. His wife, who had driven out with him on what should have been a 20-minute round trip, watched her husband die in front of her. And a baby girl, too small to understand any of it, was somewhere inside that house while all of it happened outside. Gary Davis was arrested and charged with murder. No bond was set. A motion was filed to have bond denied entirely. The Harris County Sheriff's Office brought in homicide detectives, crime scene investigators, the Violent Criminals Apprehension Team, K-9 units, and air support. This was not treated as ambiguous. From the beginning, investigators treated it as what it appeared to be: a man who made a choice. And here is the detail that has stayed with me since I first read this case. Marlon had no weapon on him. He was not there for a confrontation. According to everything on record, he was standing by his car. He may have already been moving to leave when the shot came, which means in those final seconds, Marlon Sanders was doing exactly what he had done his entire adult life, trying to go home. There is something unbearable about that, about a man who chose patience, chose love, chose to stay in a hard situation with grace, and was killed anyway, not because of anything he did, because of where he was standing, because he was visible, because he existed in a space someone else couldn't tolerate him existing in. That is not a crime of passion in the romantic sense. People sometimes use that phrase. That is what happens when unresolved possession masquerades as love. The morning after, Port Arthur ISD opened its doors, and counselors were already waiting, because there were children coming in who had no idea yet. Kids who were going to walk toward a music room and find it dark. Athletes who were going to look for their coach on a sideline that would be empty. people who loved Marlon Sanders the way you love someone who shows up for you every single day and had no framework yet for what it meant that he was gone. The Sanders family released a brief statement. They described Marlon as a husband, a father, a son, a brother. They asked for privacy and for prayers. They did not ask for anything else, because what else do you ask for when the person you needed most didn't come home from a 5-minute drive? I have been turning this case over in my mind since I started researching it, and there are questions here that I don't think have easy answers. Questions I want to leave with you. Marlon Sanders knew this situation was complicated. He knew Gary Davis existed. He knew that picking up that baby meant pulling up to that house, on that street, in Davis's line of sight. So here's what I want to ask you. Do you think Marlon had any sense of the danger that night? Do you think his wife did? And if there was any fear, any instinct, any small voice that said this feels wrong, what does it mean that they went anyway? Was that bravery? Was it trust? Or was it the kind of normalcy that a volatile person counts on? The assumption that because nothing has happened before, nothing will happen tonight? And this, when two households are connected by a child, and one person in that arrangement is carrying this much unresolved anger, at what point does someone have a responsibility to protect the people around them from what they already know is there? I don't have the answer. I'm not sure anyone does. What I know is that a beloved man is gone. A child will grow up without the full story of the night she was picked up, and a community is trying to figure out how to keep going without the person who made it feel whole. Leave your thoughts in the comments. I read every single one, and so does this community. If this case moved you, share it, because the more people who know Marlon Sanders' name, the less likely it is that his story gets swallowed by the next news cycle. Subscribe to 3 AM Files for new cases every week. Real people, real stories, told the way they deserve to be told. Until next time, stay aware, stay safe, and never forget that the most dangerous moments are often the ones that look the most ordinary.